So, Nancy, there seems to be concern on both sides of the aisle about President Trump's behavior and his penchant for tweeting. What course of action do lawmakers have if the president does, in fact, fire Special Counsel Robert Mueller?
Well, first of all, Erica, there are conflicting stories on Capitol Hill about whether President Trump actually has the power to fire Robert Mueller or not. Earlier this week, the Deputy Attorney General, Rod Rosenstein, was testifying here on Capitol Hill, and he said that only he has the power to do that and that he has no intention of firing Mueller and that he wouldn't do it even if asked by the president unless he thought that there was cause to do so. However, if the president somehow were able to make a move to get rid of Robert Mueller, what some Democrats have suggested is that they would simply bring up legislation that would reinstate an independent counsel. It's a little bit different than a special counsel, which is what Robert Mueller is, and that then they would simply reappoint Robert Mueller to the position. Republicans have not necessarily signed on to that yet. They're taking a wait-and-see approach, but that is one option that's available to them.
And then at that point, if he is considered independent counsel, he would then be way more independent. The president would not be able to interfere, fire, or do anything like that.
That's right. He would have even more autonomy than he does now as special counsel. It's a position that used to exist, but Congress let lapse because there were independent counsel figures in the past that they felt had gone a little too far afield in their investigations. Kenneth Starr is a perfect example of that. And so a decision was made to sort of go with this sort of middle approach, which is the special counsel. But certainly, if President Trump were able to fire Mueller, and remember that that would be a firing without cause because Mueller really hasn't done anything yet. He's simply staffing up at this point, getting up to speed, determining the scope of his investigation. So it would be pretty clear that the president had fired him simply because he just doesn't like the idea of being investigated or the larger investigation of possible collusion between Trump campaign officials and Russia. And so that would take things to another level that might make Republicans more willing to reinstate an independent counsel.
Interesting. Okay, meanwhile, we know that Senate Republicans are working to draft new health care legislation by the end of the month. But Senator Elizabeth Warren criticized the party's perceived secrecy on CTM Friday morning. Let's listen.
Right now, the Senate Republican leadership has 13 men locked behind doors negotiating what they're going to do on a health care bill, won't let Democrats in the room.
The president did say the House bill was mean.
Well, that's the same bill that he threw the party for right after it passed. I mean, we need to be able to see this bill, not to decide a month later that it's mean after it becomes law.
What's going on there? Is that frustration just a part of party politics here?
No, it's actually frustration that some Republicans in the Senate share as well, because they're not crazy about the process. You know, this is a sixth of the nation's economy that we're talking about, health care, and it is being hashed out behind closed doors by a party that slammed Democrats for years for conducting their own closed-door negotiations, which, guess what, did include Republicans, at least for a long period of time, when they were crafting Obamacare. But the reality is that Republicans have decided that the only way that they can do this is to operate independently of Democrats, and that means that the best shot that they have is to try to come up with some consensus among their own members, because they can only lose 2 senators if they want to pass this legislation. Try to hash out the details behind closed doors, get people on board, then send it to the Congressional Budget Office and hope that the Congressional Budget Office determines that it would actually lower premiums and, you know, in a perfect world, expand coverage.
Are there any indications that the Republicans will actually meet their self-imposed deadline to finish this legislation?
It's highly unlikely, Erica. They wanted to get this done by the end of the month, but that would require them to both finish crafting the legislation, which it's clear they haven't, then get it all to the Congressional Budget Office, CBO, because they have committed that they would get a score. That's talk around here for, you know, finding out how much it would cost and what the impact would be before they hold a vote. And it's looking very unlikely at mid-month that they're going to be able to accomplish all that by their self-imposed deadline. So it'll probably slip.
All right, Nancy Cordes for us on Capitol Hill. Thank you.
You're welcome.